Good evening, Razorback fans. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by FanDuel, live from the Sterling Soap and Roastery Studios. We're part of the Believe and Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I'm Porter Hayes. Alongside me, as always, is Adam Hall. And on tonight's show, we'll be giving our Arkansas and Notre Dame preview, and we'll be joined shortly by Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated. So, Adam, a lot of things have kind of changed when it comes to this game. Of you have all this noise of the wheels falling off of this program, yet you have a game that is now currently via FanDuel. It's bounced between 3.5, 4.5. Right now, Notre Dame currently sits at a 4.5 point favorite in this game. And to be honest, with everything going on, I'm really surprised this is the line. But then again, Arkansas always finds a way to win one of these games every year.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about the line. It's been low from the start. I think, what did you tell me? It was like 6.5 when it opened up or something like that. I maybe kind of just attribute it to the first couple of games for Notre Dame that they lost, and then coupled that with the way Arkansas's offense has performed, that they're giving Arkansas a snowball's chance, a little more than a snowball's chance in this one. I know our guy Chris Phillips over at SEC Unfiltered picked Arkansas to win, pull the upset. I don't see it happening. But it would be the Arkansas thing to do to, lose to Memphis and then come out and beat Notre Dame. But it's one of those, I'm not going to get my hopes up, just like I haven't all season. I think we all know where the season is headed in one way, shape, or form. So it's one of the, I'll go into the game with an open mind. And it's, like we talked about last season and this season, I'm going to take this game by how this game is performed come Saturday at 11 o'clock at kickoff. I'm going to put the previous games out of mind during this game.
And rightfully so, because, again, it's not like Notre Dame's coming in guns a-blazing. They have a few players out. They've looked shaky. Two things I want to point out is it's funny that the line is 4.5. Therefore, one possession game. The irony of it being a one possession game doesn't bode well for Arkansas's record in one possession games. So to me, it's like, is that what's holding them back really from making this Arkansas the favorite? Because they just they can't ever find a way to win these games. 7-19 right now under Sam Pittman. And another stat is via Ruskin and Zach, Arkansas is 4-22 when the opponent scores 30 or more points under the current regime. Can Arkansas's defense hold Notre Dame under 30 points?
I don't know if they can. I mean, you haven't really proven that your defense can stop much of anything that's not a lower level school. This is something that if I'm Travis Williams, if I'm the defenders that are playing this weekend, I'm going to be pissed off. And I feel like they should play pissed off. Everybody, for the most part at least, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but the majority of folks have written off the defense this season. And like we talked about, rightfully so. If that's what you believe, you don't have any faith in this defense, go for it. We've all said that this is going to have to be, who outscores who. This is going to have to be like Bobby Petrino head coach teams of the past here at Arkansas. Our defenses weren't that great. It was all about the offense outscoring, your opponent. And I think that's where we're at right now. So it's something that we have to solely rely on the offense and hope that the special teams, or at least the kicker, can come through. I'm still on Scott Fountain's case for our special teams being pretty much garbage outside of kicking. I mean, our punt return is atrocious. Our kick return is atrocious. We don't punt block for anything. So this is something that outside of kickers, I mean, our special teams are horrible. So this is something that is solely going to be on the offense and kicker shoulders this weekend.
Yeah, and this right here is a game where the seats are hot. Hunter Yurchek's seat's hot. Travis Williams' seat's hot. Sam Pittman's seat is hot. The only one that's safe is Sam Pittman and the players. This needs to be a game. What's that?
Petrino and the players?
Yeah, Petrino. Yeah. Who did I say? Patino?
No, you said Pittman.
Oh, Pittman, Hunter Yurchek. Yeah. So collectively, those three guys, and Hunter, I guess you can throw him out because he's apparently, 1 foot in. He can go get another job. But when it comes to this program, Sam legitimately cares about the state of Arkansas. Let's not get that twisted. Just because things aren't working out doesn't mean he doesn't care and love this state and all that. Same can be said about T-Will, Travis Williams. He could love the program. It's not like they're just not trying. They just cannot figure out what to do to get this thing rolling. So emotions aside. But it's very important in this game when you have your back against the wall. Because, look, you lose this game. And if you lose this game more than 14 points, if they just beat you and they beat you down, kind of like Indiana beat Illinois, it's over. It's a wrap. The season's a wrap. Everything's a wrap. You got a bye week. And, I mean, you got Mike Irwin saying here, talking about October is a big indicator of what they're going to do moving forward. Because if you are going to shake down and eventually make big moves, it's going to take some time. It's going to take some calls. Not Bobby Petrino calling for the head coaching job, but it's going to take some moves. And this is where I do understand the timeliness of this. This isn't just going to happen overnight. If they are saying, okay, Hunter's looking elsewhere, he's going to go take another job, or he's going to go do that college football administrator job, whatever the official title is for that. You're going to have to get some major money to afford a new coach, Sam's buyout, hire a new AD, however all that goes. That's going to take some time to pony up millions and millions of dollars. You got a bye week. But retrospect, flip the other way. It's why this is so important, because if you win this game, you have that momentum and you have to win Tennessee game. To me, this game is important if you win of you got something to get back on track. But we've seen time after time after bye weeks losing games. You can't automatically just say, well, they got traction. Then they go to Tennessee 2 weeks later. They play Tennessee 2 weeks later. And, they go to Knoxville 2 weeks later. And it's a flex 2:30, 7 o'clock game. If they give this a 7 o'clock game in Knoxville, good luck. But it is very, very important that they win this game if they are going to try to salvage this year. Not saying that they're going to end up not in the same. I think they're going to end up in the same predicament because, one, this means nothing of the grand scheme of SEC games. It's against Notre Dame. But if you really want to prove that you want to be here, you've got the coaching down, you can get these players behind you, you have to win this game. Because if you let Notre Dame come in here hobbling and they beat you, it's a wrap.
I think the inevitable is going to happen. It's just a matter of how is it going to play out. I think that if you get blown out this weekend, I think one of the moves are made this weekend, which I believe would be Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
Have a bye week, get some things in order, and move forward for the rest of the season. I don't think that you're going to be in a situation that you're going to lose. I guess the way I'm looking at it is if you go ahead and take Pittman out of the equation, let's just say after this weekend, I think that you keep T-Will in the sense because I don't think you don't want to be down a defensive coordinator and a head coach for the remainder of the season. And that's just my take on it. Regardless of how that pans out, say Arkansas loses by 3, loses by 7. it's a close game. We don't lose on a last possession, whatever. It's just a straight up, they beat us. They had, whatever.
Yeah.
I think a game like that would prolong Sam this season. I think whatever happens this weekend moving forward, it's kind of one of those things on let's play things out, which I don't necessarily agree with, but let's play things out and let him ride off into the sunset at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Retire and move on. I don't think it's going to be firing at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to just be a mutual, we'll come to an agreement. You retire, we'll pay you X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
That's the end of it. But I think if you get blown out this weekend, if it's ugly, if your team looks like you've given up, I think it's done by Saturday evening, Monday morning.
Yeah.
And I think that Bobby takes over as interim head coach. I think that Travis Williams stays because, like I said, I just don't think you're going to take out the head coach and the defensive coordinator unless all the rails have just completely, gone off. But this is something we talked about last season, which we didn't see, but we had seen it in the 4-8 season, where a lot of it too is the players' attitudes and the players on the field. We saw players checked out that 4-8 season. What was it, the Auburn or the Mississippi State game?
Yes.
or one of those? I don't feel like you're at that yet, but if it's games 6, 7, 8, whatever, and you start seeing that with the players and the season's gone and Sam's still here, I feel like you've waited too long to let him go at that point. You've got to do something to get this brokenness, at least put a Band-Aid on it to get you through to this season.
And also, I can't remember. I can't take full credit. Yes, I have mentioned this before, but somebody had put it out there this week about, we had talked about last year and the importance of why I thought the end of last year should have been Sam Pittman's final year. Because you got Bobby Petrino, his offensive coordinator, Taylor Green, year 2. Bring somebody in to get a head start because now you're looking at Florida's probably going to be an open job. That's going to be more intriguing than Arkansas. What are they doing behind the scenes at Virginia Tech? And, to build up their NIL, to build up what they're going on. Who can they bring in? Who can they promise, hey, we're going to give you all this money. We've got all this going. We're going to build something. And what other jobs are going to come open? And with Sam Pittman, to me, it's just that bad breakup that is bound to happen. But he is the good guy. He loves Arkansas. It's one of the things you're really breaking up with somebody you love. It's not one of them you didn't care about the guy. It just wasn't working out. It's easier to cut the ties with the person, but you really care about this. The coach, fans love him as a person, but we know it's the inevitable is happening, like you said. But when? And to me, look, even if you lose this as a one-possession game, to me, that's further of you got to win this game. Notre Dame is hobbling. I was talking to Zach Arntz, avid Notre Dame fan. At the beginning of the year, of course, he's going to do a smack talk. There is no way Notre Dame loses this game. But now it's more, man, the defense is just under Ash is just not doing anything. They're not what they're promised. And he's even worried. If you can't beat them in this year, and also with the landscape of college football, when it doesn't take long to start up teams, you're seeing so many teams. You're going to nine SEC games. They're looking at going to 16-team college football playoffs. You have a legitimate chance in the future getting the right people in here. You could be one of those 16 teams. Get it, just get it done, get it over with. But you have to win this game. And if you can't, when your back is against the wall, everybody is counting you out. And you can't win this game. Yeah, I'm sorry. I outside of maybe an Ohio State or Alabama or one of the top teams in the country, any other circumstances, I'd be like, okay, I understand that happens, but this is Notre Dame. If you really want to prove, you have your Rocky moment, you want to prove that we want to get this rolling in the right direction, you have to win this game. Have to.
But I still think a lot, which we talked about this weekend. I feel like a lot of blame, and I'm not trying to go back on the comments that were said last week, but I mean, if I'm one of these guys on the team, like, I better not see Hunter Yurachek for the rest of the season trying to give pregame speeches.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to hear pep talk from a guy basically saying, like, hey, we're not cut out for this, so we're not built for this, we're not this, we're not that, when you're kind of the reason behind some of that. But they've got to find some motivation, whether it's in themselves, whether it's, articles, social media, whatever you need to do. I mean, you can't just lay down. And I'm not saying that these guys are by any means, but they've got to find something within themselves. If you don't want to do it for Coach Pittman, if you don't want to do it for Hunter Yurachek, do it for the guys with you, do it for your teammates, do it for the coaches that you do like and appreciate and whatever else. But it's ultimately up to them on how they perform this weekend. And, I got bringing up the one possession record with Sam Pittman. I had a friend that sent me a message after our shows Sunday night, and he just asked what my honest opinion is on the one possession losses, and is the coach to blame in those situations. And what he meant by, and I've seen this over in comment sections and groups and other posts and whatever. Well, the coach isn't the one that fumbled. Well, the coach isn't the one that threw the interception. Well, the coach this, coach that. And, I get your thought process on that. But at the same time, it's the coach's job to have these players ready in these different scenarios. And that's my issue. It's one of those that, like, a rare one-off fumble is one thing, but when you're 7-19 in these games, your coaching puts you in situations to lose these games, whether it's play calling, whether it's something to have. So it's one of those things that it's the coach's job to have these guys ready. And the majority of the time, our guys are not ready for the moment. And that's all that boils down to. Is like, I get it. Like, he didn't fumble the ball. He didn't throw the interception. But there were things up until that point, and it could have been to that point on the play call that the coach was the one who did that.
Yeah, so, but that goes to Taylor Green too, and he's not without criticism. Yeah, he is the one bright spot for this offense. One of the bright spots for this offense. But it's like comparing him to that Heisman moment. You had a chance to have your Heisman moment. You throw 2 interceptions and you tripped over your own feet on a key third down. And when I'm saying Heisman moment, you're talking about one of the best in the country, the player of the year. You can't have games like that in these settings where this was a must-win game for your program. Not saying you can't have bad games, but in the moment, in the end, you can't have games like those in that moment, in the time, in your season, just like tomorrow or a Saturday. If you want to get yourself back on that Heisman track, if you want to prove that you're a leader on this team, the offense needs to you're going to have to drop your nuts and just do it. Pick up the slack. Give as much as you can. Because I will say this, as much as we've talked about the defense, if I start seeing people on offense starting to slack, then I will be very worried about, is this team going to win another game this year? Because they're the ones carrying the load. And if you see them starting to half-ass run routes or not running the ball, hitting the holes, or just making errant throws, if they start slacking, because I'm sorry, you can say what you want, but you still have to step up and still have to go play ball. That's just the way I see it. And I know it's harsh. I know it's hard on Taylor Green because he's doing everything he can. But in those moments, you still have to give. That's what makes good people great. In those moments, you still step up.
But, that's like, I feel like Taylor this season versus Taylor last season has made great improvements and great strides. But then we saw the second half of that Memphis game like Taylor of old. And, this is something that I want to see Talon bounced back from that second half and just come out and torch Notre Dame, whether it's with his arm, whether it's with his legs. I don't care. Make better decisions. I want to see what we have seen from Talon the first, 3.5 games up until that point. And I think he's got it in them, but it's one of those that I think that the offense is going to have to support him in the sense of, like we've talked about before, I think kind of a little bit last season with the defense at time, like Talon and the offense need to come in here and just be like, hey, we've got to score on every possession.
Mm-hmm.
Because sorry, not sorry, we're not going to get help outside of us. So we have to go out there and just light it up. And whether that means then you get into situational, do you going to go up tempo? Do you want to run out the clock, whatever it is. But it's one of those things that, like I said, like they don't have to prove anything to Hunter Yurachek. They don't have to prove anything to Sam Pittman. Like the players just need to prove this to each other. We're brothers in this. Let's shut everybody up. Let's go out here and do what we know we can do because we've shown it before. And honestly, if I was the offense, you're going to be relying on yourselves, but I would challenge the defense. If I was Talon Green and you're the leader of this team, I would stand up to the defense and just tell, basically, I'm not going to say preach to them, but like, hey, you've got to help us out. Take ownership of this.
You give any kind of motivational speech. I think this is the one where you let everybody lock in. You don't say anything. Because if you need somebody else to motivate you at this point where you're at in this program, if you need somebody else to come in and give you a speech, you think Houston Nutt's going to come through that door and say there ain't but one Razorback. If that's what you need at this point, then it's already too late, in my opinion, when you're looking at it from my perspective of where these players are. You lock in, you don't need a speech because everything that's going on, what we're saying, everybody on the outside saying, what Hunter Yurachek's saying, all you got to do is look at the bulletin board material. You lock in and you go play ball on Saturday. That's all. You don't need it. Yeah, it's good for a hoorah, but you lock in and go play because I'm telling you, you're talking about the defense stepping up. I mean, look, this offense that Notre Dame is bringing, I mean, their leading rusher, Jeremiah Love, 284 yards rushing, averaging 5.5 yards carry, 3 touchdowns on the year. CJ Carr, he's passed 737 yards, 5 touchdowns. This is, I mean, you look at Talon Green's, he's already passed for 1,100 yards. I mean, this is not like this gauntlet offense coming in, right? And I'm not saying Arkansas is going to win, but what I'm getting at, this is not your air raid offense coming in to Fayetteville. And if you can't build yourself up on your own to win this game when you have a winnable game, line again via FanDuel 4.5, that's all on you. And that's writing on the wall because you lose this game, you have a week to reflect on this, and then you've got SEC gauntlet from here on out.
100%. So we'll see what they do to get prepared before Saturday.
But we'll be joined shortly by Tim O'Malley from Irish Illustrated. He is just now getting settled in. Talked with him a couple of times today, and I'll tell you what, before we bring him on, it's the guy landed in XNA at 5:45 and has been talking nonstop. We're watching him in the background. He's getting ready. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break, hear a word from our sponsors, and then we'll talk to Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated after the break. When I bring up our commercials. There we go. Looking to enhance your home's curb appeal? Look no further than Vision Exteriors. As your trusted roofing, siding, and exterior experts, we're here to transform your property. Our skilled team ensures your job is not only functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. Along with roofing, we also offer window, gutter, and siding installation to boost your home's appearance with our quality options. Visit us at www.visionexteriors.com or call us at 479-397-4770. Let's make your vision a reality. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast. We go now via the Member Hotline, bring in Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated. Look, before we even get started, I want to appreciate like landing and getting
no
to
problem.
the hotel and making this happen. So I really appreciate that you making time out of your day, landing and then jumping right on the show with us.
Yeah, no problem. I've been planning this trip for a while, so it was easy travel here, though. I enjoyed it.
I mean, there's not much traffic compared to South Bend, Chicago. I mean, what's Fayetteville and Fort Smith to you? You know. But we'll jump right into it. Really just go back from. I really want to get your perspective of from the beginning of the season when you knew this game was going to happen until now. How has your perspective changed? The line has definitely changed. What does your perspective change from the start coming into this game with Arkansas?
Yeah, it's funny because all the dynamics outside it are so different, but so it is between the lines too. Because you got to remember, Notre Dame came off #1 rated pass defense of the country 2024, #1 rated pass defense of the country 2023. It's not like it was a flash in the pan. And for them to fall this badly, and the pass defense has been the issue, giving up explosive plays. That's the biggest surprise. Like most Notre Dame fans figured there's a little bit step down if you lose Xavier Watts, who was a 2-time All-American National Player of the Year, Al Golden, Broyles Award winner last year. A little bit of a step back, but this is staggering. And all we heard all of camp, and camp was pretty much shut out to media. When they play a good team like Miami or Ohio State or A&M to start the season, you don't see much of camp. We were in there a lot when they played Navy to start a year in Dublin, but they didn't let us see. They didn't let us see a whole lot. So we just heard from everyone that could see it, including coaches. Defense is way ahead of the offense. Defense is way ahead of the offense. Defense is dominating the offense. So we just expected to see a continuation of what we've seen for the last couple of years. Really good defense. And I got to tell you, say how much it changed, the line changed. We do those ridiculous exercises where you pick every game in August, like you could possibly do that on August 15th. Just people like to read it. Our publisher and owner, Tim Priester, picked one loss. It was this one. I said one loss is going to be Arkansas. I call it the triangle: Arkansas, Boise State, or NC State in a row. Because first of all, Arkansas is a tough place to go play for the first time. But those other ones are before USC. And I thought, that's where the stumble's happening. They're looking at 1-3 in the face if they lose this game now. Like the dynamic, this is not a trap. This is two teams with 2 losses that need to win this game.
Going into this game, Ty Washington coming back to Fayetteville, he's been fairly vocal at times when asked about it, when pressed about it. Does he have any extra motivation he's giving teammates that we've seen? Are they going to kind of dial up some stuff for him possibly to show up? Because I know he had a quote on basically how to shut up the fans and get them to go home, which by all means, talk your talk. It'd save time. But, I just wonder if maybe they have something to get him going in this game.
He's the second tight end. He missed most of the Miami game because he had a bad wrist in camp. Played about 40 snaps in the last game, and that's when Notre Dame really, for the first time, used 2 tight ends. He probably got about 17 snaps against Texas A&M. That was a wild game. It was Notre Dame probably should have tried to slow it down a little bit. It was such a wild game. But I think Washington's main job in this game is to be that 12 package tight end, because Mike Denbrock, the offensive coordinator, believes they can run the ball with Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. The offensive line is kind of coalescing. The interesting thing is the offensive line that much better, or did they play Purdue? That's how you always have to look at these things. Now, obviously, Notre Dame's offensive line tends to get very good as seasons progress. I don't think if they were playing Miami in week 7, it would be quite as bad as it was in week 1. But Purdue also is a nice tonic for what ails you when you're a running game. You go out there and kill Purdue once in a while. So that's going to be very interesting to me, because if they can run the ball, it's going to make CJ Carr that much more effective in his 4th start. He only threw 4 passes in the first half against Purdue. He threw 12 for the game. Completions were like 10 completions for 233 yards. You're not going to get that against any defense with a pulse. But if you run the ball well, he might only throw 22 times, because Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are the trusted parts of this. And you mentioned Ty Washington. Eli Raridan is their tight end that starts at, plays almost every snap. So he's the guy I would look for in the red zone. He hasn't got a touchdown yet. He had 180 yards combined against Miami and Texas A&M. He wasn't targeted against Purdue, but he's the guy that I think they want to get involved again. And then Jaden Greathouse might be the one receiver a lot of Arkansas fans could remember from the semifinals and final last year. He kind of, he had his 2 breakout games against Penn State and Ohio State in the semis and finals. And he was inconsistent prior, and I always tell people, well, he was good against Penn State and Ohio State, so what do I care happened against, NC State and Navy? But he has not made a big impact in this season yet. So Raritan and Greathouse I'd look for more in the passing game than Ty Washington. Washington probably has to watch out getting a personal foul penalty after a blocker lands on his back, because that's usually you got to keep your emotions a little bit in check in these situations.
And we'll talk about the offense here in a minute, but I really want to get your opinion. Memphis was able to really run the ball. Yeah. It was the key moment of last week. How does that, when you're talking about Notre Dame coming in struggling on offense or trying to get things going, do you think this is a really good game for them, knowing that really this defense for Arkansas has just been so inconsistent? And the one bright spot coming into the Memphis game really got exposed. And how does that bode well for Notre Dame coming into this game?
I'm almost positive they'll look to establish the ground game with that pair. Jeremiah Love was asked twice why he was successful against A&M and Purdue and not Miami, and he said both times, I got the ball. He is going. Jadarian Price, who had 4 touchdowns last week, including a 100-yard kick return, he got the ball 6 times in the Miami game, all on one drive, 45 yards, 30-yard gain, drove them all the way down the field, never got the ball again. And Notre Dame fans were incensed, like, what is going on there? These guys have been 6, 7, 8 yards of carry rushers for 2 years now. So I think they are absolutely going to run the ball. Notre Dame's offensive line, once again, I want to couch it with Purdue, but Gerby Lambert is the surprise starter. They lost their best offensive lineman in July, but he's also not coming back anytime soon. Charles Jagusa. So they had shuffled a little bit. And Lambert, people have always seen him as a future left tackle. He's a redshirt freshman. He's playing right guard, and he looked like a fish out of water against Miami. We talked to him this week. He said, everything is different now. I just feel so much better going to my 4th game. I can actually watch film and know what I was doing, what I did wrong. He said he used to listen to the linemen talk, and he thought it was gibberish the first time he was trying to understand what was going on. So they really think their line is coming along. They do run block better than pass protect. Anthony Knapp at left tackle has been a little – I guess we thought he'd take a step forward because last year he started as a true freshman left tackle. They had a couple – again, Charles Jagusa was hurt last year too, so he had to step in for him. Did a great job against A&M with that, and they had a really good defensive line last year, if you recall. Started the whole year. You figured he'd really take off this year. He's been good run blocking. He's been susceptible pass blocking, so that would probably be something. I know Arkansas doesn't have a great pass rush when you're doing a 4-man rush, but off left tackle – doesn't really seem to matter that CJ Carr fumbled last week to end the first half of the Purdue game, but that's in a closer game. That's a pretty tragic play to give up at the end of the half for points like that. So I expect running, and very quickly, another reason to run is they are not confident in their pass defense right now, Notre Dame. If you're running the ball and taking a little bit of the heart out of Arkansas's defense, but also taking 4 extra minutes of possession, that's a whole possession. I think that's a pretty big deal for them in this game.
What's Coach Freeman's kind of message to the team? I mean, 11 a.m. on the road. I don't buy into the SEC is king conversation much anymore, especially from coaches. So, I mean, what is he doing anything different to the team, or it's business as usual?
They've played. I mean, they play a lot of these games, especially if you go back to Ohio State, Penn State in the Sugar Bowl, Penn State in the Orange, Ohio State in the National Championship, Penn State in the Orange Bowl, Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. I think they've kind of gone beyond worrying about the atmosphere at Notre Dame. Now, CJ Carr, the first game at Miami, because Miami's only allowed for Notre Dame and Florida State, by the way. That's the only time they're allowed. But they are incredibly loud when those two teams come to the stadium. And I think Notre Dame overreacted offensively with CJ Carr. The way we know he can throw the ball, for them to have a horizontal passing game, I joked if you look to the left or the right of your set, you always knew where the ball was going. It was just, they did not attack vertically at all. And I think they realized that that's going to be the one thing they probably did with the atmosphere was they were probably afraid of CJ Carr at his first start with a new offensive line, false starts, all the crazy stuff that can happen. I don't think they feel that way. And I tell you, 11 o'clock a.m. is a lot different for a crowd, I think, in Arkansas than 7:30 p.m., right? It might be a little bit more looped up if they were coming down here. So, we said that once. Notre Dame lost to Clemson under Marcus Freeman in a revenge game, and everybody picked Notre Dame because they killed Clemson the year before. It was a noon game, and everybody said, oh, boy, it's a noon game. Notre Dame's going to handle business. Hartman threw like 5 picks. It was just a really rough game. And so you could get loud at 12 too, but I know what places look like in big-time games at 7:30. And I was looking actually forward to seeing that down here, but I'll be pretty happy when I'm watching football at 7:00 Saturday night.
I got to tilt my screen so off my Clemson helmet just for.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it was 2. Do you remember Notre Dame killed them in 2022? They're undefeated, and everybody thought Notre Dame was going to beat them in November. And
now everybody's beating Clemson. So I mean, I'm right there with you. But the thing I really wanted to ask you, and I've had to have this same conversation with my own fan base. What is the mindset of? I mean, look, Notre Dame's not in a conference. It's been college football playoff. That's the standard for Notre Dame football. Arkansas is just trying to get bowl eligible. Now you got a team like Notre Dame. It's college football playoff, and knowing that you've lost your 2 ranked games, how hard is that to kind of digest and get this team up for a road game in Arkansas?
Yeah, when you think, I think the team's up for it, because remember last year it seemed like they're out of it when they lost to Northern Illinois, because that sounds so much. Northern Illinois once sounds worse than A&M and Miami back to back almost. And of course they were a much better team last year, but they were able to just run through that schedule. And it's weird. They built up so much equity with January. I think when you beat Georgia and Penn State and your Jeremiah Smith clinches a game against you in the championship game. I don't think Notre Dame, when they lost to Miami, would have fallen from 5 to 8 a few years ago and stayed in the rankings. And now 22 at 1 and 2. I think they built up so much equity that honestly, the rallying cry is, guys, we're going to make the playoffs this year if we win out. Like you didn't know that last year until November, and then you realize, oh yeah, this is going to happen for them. Now they're not going to be able to host a game, I wouldn't think, with 2 losses, of course, and that's a big difference when you can bring a team to the snow in South Bend. But I'm sure the rallying cry is we should be 2-1. Everything we wanted is right in front of us. Let's go take it. We have said at Irish Illustrated, this is kind of like a 4-game season: Arkansas, Boise State, NC State, USC. Then there's a bye. And after that, like Syracuse started to look sneaky, but then they lost Steve Angeli, Notre Dame's old quarterback, which was kind of he was coming back to Notre Dame on senior day, which was going to be kind of an exciting thing. He's out for the year. I mean, other than Chris Ash, who's struggling as a coordinator right now, having to deal with Navy for the first time, that back half of the schedule is beating teams like Pitt and Boston College and Stanford. So it is getting through these 4 games with USC being the best team, Arkansas being the hardest situation is kind of how you look at it. USC coming to South Bend they've actually struggled quite a bit since about 2011, but their passing game is a little different than Notre Dame's pass defense right now. It is. You guys have no idea, if you're not following Notre Dame, how good their pass defense has been for 2 years, because they have. I mean, I'm not saying yards allowed. This is pass efficiency defense, getting 19 turnovers in games. Xavier Watts winning the Nagurski Award, from Benjamin Morrison, first-team All-American, to Leonard Moore, first-team All-American. And then it just went completely in the tank in the last 3 games. Even Purdue had 13 chunk gains in the first half. It's just, we don't understand how that can happen. I mean, A&M's got some good receivers, actually, and you'll see that as the season progresses, but it's not something Notre Dame fans are used to. It's kind of like the Weiss era, where they had, you look back and like, man, they just can't run with anybody. But it's a strange one now. And quick tidbit in case we don't get to it, Leonard Moore, we just don't know if he's going to play. He's their All-American sophomore. So he hurt his ankle. It looked like he was going to be out for the year. He hurt his ankle in the middle of the second half against A&M, played the whole game. He's good enough where they didn't test him when he's playing on that bad ankle. They tried him once. He broke the pass up. Did not play last week. We thought, maybe Purdue. Not sure he's going to play this week. That is a huge drop-off. He is a fantastic boundary corner that can take away that big receiver. If not, it's a true freshman. They have a true freshman at nickel right now. It's like a changing of the guard you didn't want to have to change, because Leonard Moore's a sophomore All-American, and you need him against probably any of these 4 games, but I think down in Arkansas, you really need the guy.
Notre Dame has been, obviously independent forever and a day. How close have they been to? I mean, I know we've seen, they have their deal playing ACC teams. Mm. Will we see them join a football conference, or is the NBC deal too lucrative for them to leave?
They could outside of the playoff, where they got to keep it. Mm-hmm. They could make more money in a conference than they can with the NBC deal. But now with the 14-team playoff or 12-team playoff, maybe going to 14 before it goes. Let's not even bother going to 14 at this point. If it's going to expand, go to 16. Mm-hmm. They see, as long as they see an avenue to the playoff, and gosh, they already opened up where they could have a bye. It took 1 year for them to open that little window. Now they're not going to get it because they lost 2 games. But if Notre Dame was 2-1 right now, they would. This is the equity I talked about. If Notre Dame was 2-1, they'd be number 6. That's insane for a 1-loss team, because of who they played, especially if Miami's number 2. So I think as long as Notre Dame has a path to the playoff, they will stay independent in football. Obviously, basketball and other sports have gone to conferences. And another thing is their new athletic director, Pete Bavacqua, is also a Notre Dame grad. I've always contended the previous one was Jack Swarbrick, a Notre Dame grad. I don't think a Notre Dame grad wants to be the AD that sends Notre Dame to a conference if you can help it.
Yeah.
So as long as they're healthy and you have a good program and Marcus Freeman has the program built up, I think they're safe. It's if you start treading water and you just really need help as a program again, then you have to consider it, especially with teams going to 9 games in conference slates.
That's what I was going to bring up. It almost seems like they're trying to do everything they can to squeeze Notre Dame into a conference.
Yeah.
And when you have 2, I believe all the bigger 3 conferences are going to 9 games. So it kind of makes it harder because you have these, like Georgia Tech, Clemson, South Carolina. You have these rivalries that if they have to pick one game, they're going to pick that over. Maybe USC would be one that they would choose if you're talking about rivalry from instance. But maybe that's the thing that kind of helps Notre Dame is because that rivalry right there kind of helps you in a sense of then if you want to go backdoor it into maybe what would you go Michigan State after that or a Michigan that type of rivalry game. You always have backups when you're talking about Notre Dame.
Michigan was a big one that people would like to see back. There's a lot of hatred in that over the last 30 years, which makes it a lot of fun. Obviously, Ohio State will always have Michigan will always have Ohio State more so. But it's funny because USC, it seemed like Lincoln Riley was trying to pull a little way, like we don't have to go there every year. And then I thought to myself, the athletic director's probably like, yeah, you're also not going to be our coach forever, so maybe you're not in charge of this situation. It seems like USC has capitulated a little bit. They might be hosting Notre Dame, even though it's not on the schedule next year. I think the 9 games can be tough. I like having an independent like Notre Dame. Obviously, I've followed it my whole life, so it's a little different. But, Alabama's coming in a home and home with Notre Dame in 28 and 29. Texas has home and homes. Texas A&M. Arkansas is coming to South Bend. It's fun to have these things. They have Clemson, was it 6 times in 10 years? They've set that up as well. I think that's enjoyable for college football. I like that they're mostly on campus. They're going to Lambeau Field next year, which is absolutely fine with me to go to Lambeau Field to watch Wisconsin because that's fun. So I kind of think it's a unique part of college football. They can still do that. I know a lot of good Alabama during the run with Saban did a great job of playing power programs, but they were neutral sites, and it's just not the same thing. I really like the home and home they're able to do. Georgia, I forgot Georgia was a fantastic home and home for Notre Dame back-to-back. So I think they'll push to stay independent as long as they can, but you have to be a viable, healthy program to stay independent. Or you can't be irrelevant. You can't go back to the Davey, Willingham, and Weiss era where people always want to rip on Brian Kelly at Notre Dame, and I get it, but he made them relevant. Again, he made them. They might have gotten killed in a playoff game, but they weren't 6-6. They were in a playoff game. They're 12-0 3 times under Brian Kelly. That's or undefeated regular season 3 times. That's a lot better than the past.
I'm not sure if y'all saw the breaking news today, but I was going to bring this up. But Sam Hartman shaved his beard. And I didn't know if you got the memo being Notre Dame country, but is that breaking news out in South Bend?
Probably it would have been huge breaking news 2 years ago in South Bend. I can tell you that much, but I don't know. I think they've moved on probably. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Good-looking dude still. So Riley Leonard came to town. Everybody loves Riley Leonard now. He's the new everybody's favorite transfer. So CJ Carr have to win a few games. Riley Leonard was the nicest human being I think I've ever interviewed in my life. So I'll always root for him. And you guys talk about will Notre Dame focus on the run? Last year with Riley Leonard was unique because 18 rushing touchdowns from your quarterback, 17 from Jeremiah Love. But the key really was 3rd and 4, and you're playing a good team, and you think at the midfield, all right, we're just going to run Leonard twice, and he's going to get it. You can't do that with other quarterbacks. You can't do it with CJ Carr. You can't do it with his backup, Kenny Binchy. So Notre Dame's short yardage game that is the weakness in the running game right now, as we have seen it through 3 games. Didn't matter against Purdue, I guess. But they've tried Wildcat with Love, but Mike Elko just realized they weren't throwing to CJ Carr and they're blitzing off the edges. So they may go back to that, but I think if it wouldn't be Wildcat anymore, it'd be direct snap to Love, and you bring in Ty Washington as your H-back, situations like that. But the short yardage is still under construction in South Bend because they had the ultimate get out of jail free card. Just hand the ball to the 235-pound linebacker playing quarterback, and he would run for it.
So last question too, we're talking about the portal and NIL, you're talking about with Notre Dame being a private institution, and not having to fully disclose. Do you think that takes pressure away from the university of knowing that because we have an AD that's talking about this third lane. I'm
Yeah.
sure you've probably heard about all the noise. I mean, does that kind of keep y'all out of that third lane per se? Because you don't have to worry about the optics because you don't have to report what y'all make.
Yeah.
And where is this going with that rev share? How do they expect this rev share? Because again, not another dig on our AD, but I'm going to. They're under the assumption this rev share is going to make things equal. How is that possible when you have so many private institutions that don't have to report what they make when you have others thinking this rev share, this $16-17 million is going to be a savior?
Yeah, I don't think it will be a savior. I'm with you. I Notre Dame, I think, also probably did not want that $20.5 million salary cap to come hit because they had plenty of ways. They have their main NIL fund, which ND at the end of it. But there's always ways to. I mean, Sam Hartman wasn't really part of that. You can Notre Dame was very successful in NIL, even though they don't bring in a ton. They targeted, of course, the $1 million guys in Hartman and Riley Leonard's Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love could have left for a lot more, but Jeremiah Love is doing just fine. Let's put it that way. I think that Marcus Freeman's ability to get Notre Dame to navigate this at all in 2021, they wouldn't even talk about having an NIL deal. If you had a legit Kyle Hamilton actually had a podcast, most legitimate NIL thing ever, and they didn't even want to talk about it. It was like, oh no, they're student athletes. And now, thankfully, when you see a legitimate deal, it's talked about. It comes out. I'm amazed at the change Notre Dame has had in NIL because 3 years ago they were getting crushed in NIL. There was no money going to high school you're recruiting. There was no money going to the portal. Retention was hard because you never really know the baseline salaries, as you say, because you don't have to report it. I know it's a heck of a lot more than it used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
They didn't have a guy go out in the portal. This is incredible during the playoff run. No, not one player from December 4th to the end of the national championship left in the portal. So all of the guys that were leaving anyway, disgruntled, anything, they just stayed on the team. I mean, that is a situation where you're handling your culture properly. Then, of course, they lost some guys in that 5-day window because they lost 3 linemen, actually. But Marcus Freeman's really navigated it well, and he still doesn't talk about it that much. Notre Dame still pretends like it's like the 4th Avenue for them.
We've sure come a long way since everybody got all over Northwestern for thinking they were going to form a union. I mean, you think about how long ago that seemed to where we are now, and no telling what's going to happen in the next 5 years with all this. So we don't know. It's just like buckle up and get ready.
Yeah. I remember Michael Mayer wouldn't talk about his NIL deal. Like, you're the best player on the team by far, a junior. Everyone knows you have a giant NIL deal. Otherwise, you'd be somewhere else right now but no, now I think it would be a little different situation.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tim, I really appreciate your time again, hopping off the plane, getting in the rental and hopping on with us. So it's been a pleasure and hope you have a great time. If you have a chance, go by Wright's Barbecue. That is a must spot and Catfish Hole. So
got a lot of friends coming in. We've been planning this for like 10 months, believe it or not. There you go. This is we're pretty excited about it. Thank you very much for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
That was Tim O'Malley of Irish Illustrated. I mean, look, really from a standpoint of if Arkansas fans are listening to this, I mean, it's actually gives you some hope. You know, the confidence level isn't like, okay, we're rolling. But again, what kind of scares me is this is a sleeping dragon. You're catching them. You don't want to catch this team at the right time. And it's either going to be they're still trying to find out who they are as a team, or like what he said at the end, if they still believe they can win out and make the college football playoff, and this is going to be that it's tale of 2 teams. Arkansas has got to save their program and head coach. Notre Dame's going to be saving their college football playoff lives. So which one's going to come in and matter the most on Saturday?
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that, I've talked about in the last week or so is that Notre Dame started 0-2 before and reeled off 10 wins. Mm-hmm. It's in their wheelhouse to do so. And it's one of those that them losing 2 games or, starting the season 0-2, this is a team that was more or less, projected to go to the playoffs. So this is a team that has a lot more to prove, unfortunately, than Arkansas. So at this point, like we've talked about before in previous seasons and other sports even, be the team that ruins somebody else's season.
Yep.
If you beat Notre Dame this weekend, you've now completely eliminated them from the playoff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So play the villain, play it up, do whatever you need to do to shut everybody up. Because I'll tell you this is, yeah, we'll talk about, the Arkansas thing to do, Hog's going to hog, losing to Memphis and then beating Notre Dame. But guess what? At the same time, you'll have a lot more people back on your side through that bye week and then going into Tennessee.
Yeah.
So,
and I think Arkansas, and I'm speaking of the people at the stadium, I think they need to do everything in their power, fans included, to get that stadium open as early as possible to allow fans to get in the stands. Fans, you're there, get in, because I'm telling you what happened when Arkansas went to Georgia, and excuse me, and they started at 11 o'clock and the fans were there rolling already. The game was over before you even got the popcorn hot and got sat down. I think that's really going to happen because he's talking about trying to get your passing game going. You're trying to get your run game going. If these fans are still filtering in halfway through the first quarter, you've already got 2 drives in somewhat. Now you've just given them advantage. Now it's not home field advantage anymore. You're on even playing field. Get in there early. Open the gates up. Let the fans get in there. Get this thing rocking, because I think that's going to be a huge, huge factor. If you can go in there and they're struggling to get their rhythm and you have a full house ready to go, you're being loud, that's going to help Arkansas this game.
Mm-hmm. And like we've talked about before, if given the opportunity, take the ball first.
Yeah.
You've proven that you can, you're electrifying on opening drives. If you want to quickly take Notre Dame's spirit out of that game, it would be a commanding first drive, score a touchdown, and get the fans involved in the game from
Give
the
them
get-go.
time. It's almost like give them time to get into the stadium. You put together a nice 7-8 play drive. Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, get the fans involved early, because like Ty Washington wants to do and made the comment, basically quieting the fans early and they'll go home. Take that and shut Ty Washington up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he is, 3 games played, 3 catches for 19 yards, 6.3 yards per catch. So
He's
I know
playing
he's
the agitator. I know it. I mean,
so
that's all it is.
Draymond Green, one of them people.
More or less talent.
But anyways, before we go, hey, look, the betting line, it's right there. Yes, it is dangerous that it's one possession game, but this is not going to be the runaway that we thought. We thought this game, Notre Dame was going to come in, handle business, it'd be over by halftime. So the fact that it's only a 4.5 point underdog via FanDuel, that bodes well. You got to break that hump of that one possession game. So we'll see what happens. And look, if you win, you got a bye week to sit there and celebrate the win and then get ready for Tennessee in a couple of weeks. So
100%.
Adam, you got anything else?
I don't.
All right. Well, that will do it. Again, want a special thanks to Tim O'Malley, Irish Illustrated, for hopping on with us tonight. Great conversation. Thank you for everybody tuning in, and we will catch you on Sunday night.